Good evening and welcome to Western Reiki Association Presents Reiki Currents, a Reiki News Live talk show, bringing you interviews with Reiki wisdom holders and stories of hope and healing from around the world. I'm Stephen Vanderver, your host. The focus on Reiki is to spotlight one of the world's fastest growing self-care, spiritual, and personal development tools. Everyone can learn this calming, relaxing, and healing technique and channel universal life force energy. As we come to know that our universe and everything around us, including our physical bodies, is made entirely of energy, learning to effectively work with this energy is key. Reiki is a priceless addition to your personal spiritual development toolbox. Our guest tonight is Karen Caig. Karen is an Usui Holy Fire 2 Reiki Master Teacher, Holy Fire 2 Karuna Reiki Master Teacher, professional member of the Reiki Membership Association, founder and president of Caig Consulting, Inc., Arkansas Complementary Healthcare, Arkansas Reiki Institute, Aroma Cats, and ESL teacher at VIP Kids. As a teenager, Karen remembers family gatherings and her aunts and uncles asking for her hot hands. She imagined God's love flowing down her arms, through her hands, and helping her family members relax. Her natural gift for healing soon would have a name, Reiki. Karen was attuned to Usui Tibetan Reiki 1 and 2 in Russellville, Arkansas in 2012. In 2013, she traveled to Glastonbury to Stonehenge to take William Lee Rand's Usui Tibetan Art Master Teacher training. And since then, she's upgraded her energies and training with Holy Fire 2 Reiki and has been accepted into the International Center for Reiki Training's licensed Reiki Master Teacher program. So very exciting news. Thanks so much for joining us tonight, Karen.
Thank you for having me, Stephen.
Absolutely. Now, I like to start out in the beginning. So, like, as a child, like, how young were you when you discovered energy or discovered, connection with, people and animals?
I think that, I was always a very energetic person. I was out of one thing into four others, but I've always been aware of, especially with animals, and I have always had a sensitivity to people who were in pain. I was around a lot of people in pain as a child. My father struggled with alcoholism, and my mother struggled with mental diseases as well. And so I was around a lot of people with pain. And I think that that's what makes a healer. I mean, I think that that's part of the path, is to learn to deal with those things, with people who are in pain. And I mentioned to you that as a child, I always had all kinds of, especially cats, but we had cats and dogs and chickens, and I would always end up with the injured ones. And people, at one point, I had about 10 cats. One had only one eye, Popeye, and another one, Nefertiti, had a deformed foot. And someone said, "Why are all your animals deformed, or something wrong with them?" I said, "I don't know. They just find me." And I think that that's just part of that healing path. Yeah. And I have a cat now. His name is Lazarus, which you might see him. He's super neurotic, but he was almost dead in the drain pipe at the college where I taught. We were trying to catch these wild kittens, and someone said, "Oh, it ran in the drain pipe behind the welding." And so I went and I looked, and the one gray cat ran out, but there was another one in there, and I pulled it out, and I thought, "Oh, it's dead." He was on his side just like this. And my friend said, "No, look, he's breathing." This is before Reiki. I didn't know anything, but just I tried to go to the vet, and the vet closed early on Wednesdays. And so I called them and I said, "I've got a cat and it's dead. It's almost dead." He told me to give it Karo syrup and water. And anyway, long story short, I was able to nurture this cat. The vet said, "I don't know how. He should have died." But I had to stay up all night with him. The first night, I gave him Karo syrup and I got him to eat, and I thought, "Oh, good, he's good." And went to bed, got up the next morning, 6 o'clock. I'd put him in the bathroom to keep him away from the other cats, and he's stretched out again on the floor. Oh, so that's just one story. I have a bazillion stories of animals that I've been able to help.
So you really feel the connection with the animals, from a very young age, and then. As your family became aware of your connection there and your healing gift, I guess, how did they respond to that? How did they understand what you were able to do?
Well, I grew up mostly in Texas, and so they didn't mainly they would just say, Karen Renee, come over here and hot hand me, you know, because I'm a very touchy-feely person. And so especially my aunts and uncles, I just kind of rub their back. And when my hands would get tired, I just let them rest. And it felt like to me like a blue light that would come down, and I just felt love. And to me, I was just sending them love. And they'd say, why do your hands get so hot? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. But they, you know, and they just accepted it. And, you know, it didn't really, because it sounds kind of woo-woo weird. You know, I grew up mostly in the Bible Belt. I was born in Oklahoma, grew up in Texas. We had 2 years in California and Oregon. We lived in Oregon when I was little, but.
So they wouldn't talk about it much, but certainly at the family gatherings, they'd have you come over and put your hot hands on.
Yeah. But they didn't. It's like, why do your hands get so hot? I don't know. Just, I said, because I love you. It's just my. And I've always had a calming influence on people, you know, and just, I don't know. It's just my instinct to run and help. I can remember being in Ireland one year. I think it was my very first trip to Ireland, and we wanted to go up the west coast of Ireland to Glen Tees, which is this tiny little village where Meryl Streep filmed Dancing at Lunasa. So my friend and I went, and we were going to the little pub that they used in the movie, and we're walking, and I see these two old ladies, and one is going, "Can you hear me, Nancy? Are you all right? Can you hear me?" And the one old woman had tripped, you know, because cobblestones, had tripped and fallen, and she was bleeding from her head. And because we were just in this tiny village, they had to send like mountain rescue. So I just sat down it's cold in Ireland, even in the summer. So I sat down because she couldn't, you know, she was kind of dizzy and everything. So I just sat there and held her, and she said, "Oh," she said, "your hands are so warm." I was like, "Yeah, no." You know, it's like, what? I don't know. But just, I think it's just in my blood, you know. I mean, it's what I wanted to do. Even in teaching, I became a teacher, but even my friends would say, like, why do you always get the weirdos? It's like, because I just like, let my weirdo light shine. But seriously, I would get the injured people. You know, they'd come to my office to get help with their essays, but mainly it would be a lot of kind of healing, talking. And after I was attuned to Reiki, I didn't necessarily talk to them about it, but I was like beaming Reiki under the desk to them as they talk, you know. So I think this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So now you taught English for years. I mean, this was your career.
30 years.
Yeah, and was at a college or university?
At a community college. Mm-hmm.
Okay, very nice.
30 years.
So, you know, talk about that. You know, and this is, you know, most of your career, 30 years, was prior to being Reiki attuned. So how did that go? Were these the students that would come and they'd have other things going on other than needing help with their English homework? Yes,
a lot of, well, I guess because of my tumultuous childhood and experiences that I had some won't really go into them, but a lot of negative, scarring, traumatic experiences. And I think that's what made students open up to me. And a lot of times it was older women coming back to school, single moms, and sometimes single dads too, you know, and a lot of times there was like sexual abuse or something that would come out in our conversation, and people they open up. I think because they trust me, because you can sense it, you know, you can sense if you've been through similar things, you just know.
Yeah.
And I think that my purpose, even though I really am a grammar Nazi and I do love English and grammar and literature and language, but I think that the best work I did was just those one-on-one sessions in my office with my students, just listening and healing. A lot of the healing to me is just the being an open vessel and an open channel for that love. And I didn't know that it was Reiki always, but I always knew that I was just sort of holding space and listening to those people. And sending them love.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Now, where did the theater major come in with?
Well, no one believes it, but I really was terribly, terribly shy. And my mother, bless her heart, and she was a shy person as well, but she made me take speech in the 7th grade because I was such a shy child that And this is like back in the late 70s. I had like long hair parted down the middle. And if I looked down like this, my hair would fall down and like the world disappeared, and that was fine with me. So she said, the world, you're going to miss so much if you can't get out there, if you're too afraid. So she said, you have to take speech. So I did. And that was terrifying, but I got through that. And then I eventually got into theater, and theater's a lot easier because you get to put on
costume,
another identity, and it taught me, after you go out and some you trip, or I don't know, all of the horrible things you imagine are going to happen, after one or two of them do, you're like, okay, I lived. All right, I guess it's not so bad. And so I auditioned for a theater scholarship. I was a good student, but I didn't have straight A's. I didn't get an academic scholarship, but I did get a full ride theater scholarship. So that paid for my first 2 years.
Nice.
And yeah. And even that, I think the theater training teaches you to get in touch with every part of yourself, because if you have to portray a character, you have to be able to not act like that person. You have to be that person. Mm-hmm. And I think that has helped me also in my healing, because I can empathize. Of course, I'm really empathetic anyway, but it's helped me in that capacity as well.
Yeah.
And it helped me just get out and do it. Just do it scared.
Yeah. I've heard that before. That's excellent. And we'll get to that in a sec. Now, it was in 2012, I'm going to say finally took a Reiki class. You took Reiki 1 and 2 in 2012 mm-hmm. in Russellville. How did that come about? Because you've obviously had an awareness for, all of your life about your energy work and the healing kind of things that you were doing. So what got you on the Reiki?
I didn't know it was a thing. I didn't know it was a thing. But Reiki works this way. I stumbled across an article that my first Reiki teacher had written in, I think it was Arkansas River Valley little magazine, about Reiki, just an informative article. And I went, And she was going to be doing a class. And I thought, that sounds really, really interesting. And I managed to scrape the money together to pay for it. And it was, I would point to that late January in 2012 as like a huge turning point. The last 6 years have been just wide open change, putting me, I think, in alignment with where I'm supposed to be. Mm-hmm. My dad had died, and I moved him from Oklahoma to take care of him, and that there were still unresolved issues. And after he died, I was just, a hot mess for that whole year. Mm. And that was 2011. So a full year. And then I went to the Reiki class, and it was really embarrassing. A huge release. It was, thank God, it was a very small class. It was just me and another.
Not sure what's happening here. We got a frozen screen.
I think I lost you.
Yeah.
Oh, good. That made me stop crying. I was like, oh, they disappeared. Good. Okay. I'm sorry. What was the last thing you heard?
You were saying that your father had died, and there was some things kind of going on.
Oh! Did you hear that? I was on the table, and it was as if it was like a big pussy sore just burst open, and it was just waves and waves of stuff releasing from the Reiki, and I was crying. I was sobbing uncontrollably on the table, and I thought, they are going to think I am insane. I don't even know these people. And I'm just sobbing here on the table. And it was Nora Dykema. And she said, they just kept their hands on me and kept that Reiki flowing. She said, it's okay. Just let it go. And I don't know how long, but that there was a huge release there of a terrible, awful. Now I think it may have even been a negative entity. I'm not sure, but it was just awful. And I felt better. And I thought, So then I started doing Reiki, of course, on myself and just on friends, just like, hey, I've got my Reiki certification now. And I started to entertain the idea of maybe this is what I'm supposed to do. And then it was a year later that healed a lot of that grief and trauma. And then a year later, do you want to hear that story about how I got to go to Glastonbury?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I knew that I wanted to do Reiki Master because this is probably the academic in me, it's like you start something, you want to go as far as you can, right? And I knew I wanted to do Reiki Master, but get the price tag. And I thought, So I started saving money. Again, I'm a single mom. So things were always a little bit tight, but I managed to, sock back some money. And then I noticed I was getting Reiki News magazine and I saw that big that double page spread of Stonehenge. And I just went, because I've always wanted to go to Stonehenge, always. And I thought, and the price was the same. I'd have to pay, extra to stay in the Abbey, but the price for the class was the same. And I was like, And it just so happened that my friend and I at the community college, we had started taking groups of students abroad where if I got 6 students, I could go free. And we were going to England, Ireland, and Wales. And the trip ended magically 3 days before the Reiki class. And so I thought, And I thought, okay, if this is supposed to be then, because I did not have the money to cover those 3 days or to, and one of my students said, Miss Caig, you should couch surf. I said, what? They said, you should couch surf. I said, what's that? And she said, well, it's called couchsurfing.org. And you go, it's a website, you go and you join it and you can stay with people for free. I was like, really? What's the catch? She said, there's not one. So it turned out that I looked, I joined and I looked and there was I found a place to stay. And I sent a request to say, like, can I stay with you? Because I needed to stay like 3 days for free, 3 nights. And he approved me. He said, sure. And then he sent me another message and he said, it was like, Karen, I said that you've never stayed with anyone before. I need to know, like, who you are. Have you got anything to prove you're not some sort of an axe murderer? And I'm like, yeah. So I sent like an article. I got a grant to study Japanese, and they had a little write-up in the paper about me. So I sent that to him. And so I stayed with this person, and that was way out of my comfort zone. My mother said, you are going to be murdered in your sleep. And I said, well, I said, if I feel uncomfortable, I'll just leave. But I stayed with this total stranger for free, and he almost had to like pin my schedule on my shirt. He put me on the bus, like, all right, now you're going to go over here to Swindon, then you will go to Bath. And then, because I couldn't even, get through the bus schedule, but he got me to Glastonbury, and it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. And I knew then that I wanted to be a licensed teacher, but William said, oh, we're not really taking applications right now. And I knew that eventually I wanted to do it, but I wasn't sure how that was going to work either.
Yeah. So how did that work out then? Because now the class that you took in Glastonbury, this was pre-Holy Fire. And so it was the Sui Tibetan Art Master Teacher. Tibetan. Yeah. And
I wanted to be a professional member of the Reiki Membership Association. And so William said, well, you'll have to retake Reiki 1 and 2 because my first teacher was not a licensed teacher. And I said, I just took Reiki Master with William Rand. Really? And it was everything has been such a blessing. So, because I learned so much from my first Reiki teacher, but then I retook 1 and 2 with Karen Harrison, and she has been such a blessing in my life.
Yeah.
And you learn something different from different teachers. You really do. And I should know that as a teacher. But so I retook 1 and 2 so I could be a professional member. And then when Holy Fire came out, I have to tell you the story about that. I was just a happy camper. And I'd started practicing Reiki. My son and I moved from our house to an apartment that had a room with a separate entrance. So I set up a Reiki practice there. And I set up a Reiki share in Little Rock. And one of my friends who lived in Russellville had gone to Sedona and took the Holy Fire right after it came out with Laurel and Michael. Mm-hmm. And I thought, I'm perfectly happy with the Susui Tibetan. It's awesome. It's great. I was teaching classes. I was, in my practice, and I really didn't have that much interest with, in it until Sean went with me to a Reiki share. And when it was my turn on the table, I was lying there and I was enjoying my Reiki, and I felt something so much stronger and so different. I wasn't sure because people kind of move around during the share, and I thought, what is that? And when we were finished, I opened my eyes and it was Sean, and he was just beaming the Holy Fire. And I went, there's something different. That feels different. That feels different. So I go back to Karen Harrison and do the Holy Fire. The Holy Fire Reiki, I think, has been instrumental in healing a lot of that past trauma. Mm-hmm. I think maybe I feel like an onion or something, just layers of stuff. And the Holy Fire Reiki has slowly released I think maybe when it's time. Mm-hmm. I guess otherwise I just explode but just when it's time to let that pain go, or time to let that heal, let that go. And it's gentler, but it's much more powerful to me, even though I was really resistant to it at first.
Yeah, I find that too. So then you went back to Karen, and then was that the Holy Fire 2 upgrade you took from her?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yes, I've taken the Master twice, the Holy Fire Master, and then I did Holy Fire Karuna with her just last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then so then was she talking to you the whole time about doing the licensed Reiki Master Teacher program, or this is something you already had planned to do?
I had it in my heart that I wanted to do it, but I wasn't sure about the timing. And when I looked at the requirements, and I also lost my mother last year. She had cancer, and I took care of her for 1.5 years. So there was a lot of other stuff going on. But sometimes I look back and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe that it's only been 6 years. If I told you all the changes that have happened in my life, it's like, did that really happen in just 6 years? Yeah. But she said that they did have openings, and I looked at the requirements, and I said, like I said, I knew in England that I wanted to be a licensed teacher. So I just wasn't sure if the timing was right. But she said, I think you should. I'm like, okay.
Okay, and so you're in, and then you got accepted in.
Yeah, I think when the timing is right, I'm learning. I am such a control freak. Probably shouldn't say that on Facebook Live, but the process of learning to let go and follow guidance, and just that I'm not in control. And when I open, and I remember that as a kid, even, or like talking about just that opening up, like with my family, that just being an open channel for healing and love. And try not to be in a panic or I've got to do this just now. When I just give myself Reiki, send Reiki to whatever problem I'm encountering, it all works. But even that's a process. I still find myself, I have those days of like, oh my gosh, I've got to do this. But just like, breathe. And I think that's, if anybody's thinking about the licensed teacher program, the mentors, I've got Julie Russell is my mentor in California, and she told me, very first mentoring session, she said, don't push it, don't rush. There's something very competitive in me. I was like, okay, I got to get, I have to do 100 clients. I have to get letters from 10 of these. You have to get a bunch of letters just to get into the program. But then there's all this documentation you have to do. You have to write a paper. You have to take a test. And so I plotted out, I'm going to do this by August, I'm going to do this by that. And Julie said, she said, enjoy the process. And and she's right. I mean, I was accepted in March, and I was really going to push and do this, but I'm learning to let things happen as they're supposed to happen, and just in the flow. Yeah. Learning to be in the flow, and I think that this is part of becoming a better teacher as well. So
yeah, and really learning a lot, getting mentored a lot, seeing a lot of clients, teaching classes,
different experiences, different clients
there, and all that sort of stuff. There's lots of requirements, but it's the top. In my view, it's the top school in the world, and so
if I'm going to teach, I want to be good.
Yeah,
and to me, this is the best program. Again, coming from an academic background, I want a program that has some standards. I want a program that's not just fly by night or like do the class however you want. I was a good teacher. I was a really good English teacher. I was an award-winning English teacher. I was good, and hard. And they said, "Oh, Miss Caig, she's really sweet, but she's hard." I want high standards. You don't want just any old crap. You want something that's I'm not Japanese, but there's something to that, like a lineage or learning in the process and doing it the right way.
Yeah. Now, something I've been really impressed with, Karen, is these Facebook Lives. You're doing Facebook Lives. You're really kind of leading the pack out there, and you're with your peers and others as well. Being able to do that. So imagine, I love that, and you do that on a regular basis. I do. I'm trying to do some more. I also use essential oils. That's what the Aroma Cats is, and that actually is an important part of my Reiki practice. If I could talk about it just for a second. These oils, I was introduced to the oils in my first Reiki class, and I use crystals sometimes. Crystals they enhance. They're like conscious, and the oils are as well. The oils are consciousness. They are what I use are Young Living, which are really pure, and it's like a consciousness. They hold that Reiki intention, and they help me. I know that sounds woo-woo, but they help. I've seen, I'm giving Reiki to someone, and I feel guided to use a particular oil on a particular spot, or just have them smell it, and it's the Reiki's working on something, but I think that sometimes the oils just help it like break through quickly, because they're a high vibration. They vibrate. Everything alive vibrates. It's all energy. We're all vibration, and these oils, these living oils, are also vibrating. And the application of the oil sometimes helps bring that vibration up, I think. So I do a lot of, now I don't talk about that so much on my regular Facebook Live, because I do live in the Bible Belt, and sometimes people think like, what are you talking about? But still, Reiki, I live in Arkansas, and I've moved to a little bit more progressive area in Arkansas, Northwest Arkansas, but I've had people, when I said the word Reiki, they thought I was talking about a garden implement, and I don't want to sound too woo-woo, but I really want to be a bridge to make this more mainstream. I think that Reiki is so important, especially in states like Arkansas, and they may be sort of doubtful about it, but we are, okay, now I'm going to get some hate on me, but this is a poor state, and healthcare is so important. And I think that Reiki is like the front line in healthcare to help people reduce their stress. So much disease comes from stress and trauma and generational stuff that's passed down. It's in our genes. I've been reading a lot about epigenetics and those epigenetic markers and stuff that's passed down through generations. And I think that Reiki and these oils also go back and address those. You can flip those epigenetic markers on or off. And so I think that I can be of great service to, not wait for people to get cancer and, to help them now. Help them now, yes. personal self-care and maintenance, more maintenance.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
now, but back to the Facebook Lives. It's something that not a lot of people are doing. I feel there's some fear there, and you talked about some fear when you do your Facebook Lives or when you started doing them. But how did your theater background help, and what was your process in making this happen, and then continuing to do it on a regular basis?
Well, I knew do it afraid. I knew I needed to do that because it's the best way to reach the most people. I can teach face to face about oils or teach about Reiki and, explain what energy work is. And face to face is better, like here, just feel it. Here, come here, But I can talk about different topics and reach more people. So I told you I was so afraid my cat was going to come. My cat has run in with chipmunks. I do have a video. I have a video of a chipmunk that I thought was dead, and I Reiki'd it. And I've got a little video on my Arkansas Reiki page, because normally when my cat brings it, you can tell he has something in his mouth. He's like, wah, 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 and he drops it, and then there it goes. And it's like a cartoon. They just run everywhere. They're cute, but fast. So, but this one he dropped, and it was just, and so I snatched it up, and they have a little scruff, Chipmunks are only like this big. So I had his little scruff, and I was like sending it Reiki, holding it, and I put it out in the grass, and it came back to life. Anyway, back to the Facebook Live. I realized that I need to start documenting some things with Reiki and teaching about the oil. So I just, if you haven't done a Facebook Live, you click it and you see it goes 3, 2, 1, and then you're like, it's some of the first ones you're like, bye. Or I would sit there and wait for people to come on, and I'm very easily distracted. You may have noticed. And that running stream over on the side, I'd be like, and so this oil is very good for, hey, how are you? It was really hard to stay on track. So I've learned to just sort of not look at that. Mm-hmm. And try not to say, I watch my videos and yeah, you think I say, all the time. I look at the ceiling. I'll as if I'm going to find the answer. A lot of, it'll do a screen grab. A lot of mine are like, yeah. The best piece of advice I can give anyone who is trying to do a Reiki business or trying to get into Facebook Live is do not take yourself so seriously.
Yeah.
Just do it. And if you look like a goofball, you look like a goofball.
Yeah, no, I love it. I was watching some of your lives today in preparation for the show, and there was one you were talking about, and this was a recent one, you were talking about this Chinese student that you're teaching English as a second language over the internet.
Oh, where her tooth fell out?
Yeah, and holding space. Yeah, talk about that.
Oh, yeah. I try to do just on Saturdays, I call them Catterday videos, talk about just like a kind of an inspirational topic or something that happened. And so I was talking about healing to me. I mentioned that earlier with my students. I learned early on that a lot of times healing is just holding space for someone. Mm-hmm. and recognizing, I see your pain, I hear you. This little girl I was teaching, and she had showed me as soon as we popped on. It's sort of like this, I see her on a little screen, and she's like, "Teacher Karen," and she's showing me her tooth, and I was like, "Oh, look, I see your tooth is loose. Wow!" And we went on with the lesson, and she, one of the slides was talking about, like I can touch with my fingers, I taste with my mouth, and it was an apple, and I said, if you bite an apple, I bet your tooth will come out. She said, yeah. And she was just pretending to bite, but she bumped it and it came out. This is not funny. But just blood was just coming out. The tooth was out. And when she realized, I don't think she was hurting so much, but just the blood. And she's like, ah! And finally, and I was like, oh, you're okay. You're okay. And I was, so I can put my hands down here, and I was sending her Reiki, like, you're all right. I see. Oh, wow, that's really scary. and her dad came over and he goes, "Oh, your tooth, it comes out." He's just like, he's like, and then he just like, he gives her some Kleenex because there's just bull, coming out of her mouth. And he's like, continue on. So I was just holding space for her. And when she could see that I saw her pain and her panic, and I was just like, yes, I see that. And holding space. I was just talking about the importance of holding space for people. And I said, especially for women, I'd learned this lesson. I'm a single mom of a son you just met earlier. And he knows that a lot of times, and men, if you don't know this, here's a bit of a piece of advice. A lot of times women just want to talk. We want you to hold space for us to say, I hear you. That must be really frustrating, or that must be very scary for you. But men, a lot of times, and this is why I love men, they want to like fix it. Tell me what to do. Just like, who made you upset? What can I do? Or if I'm crying, like, what can I do? What can I do, baby? What can I do? It's like, nothing. Just listen to me. Just listen to me. Blah, 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 blah. Hold space. So
yeah,
sometimes, yeah. But just, I'm not really sure what I'm going to talk about. A lot of times on those videos, I use Reiki for that as well. What should I talk about? What kind of lessons, or what have I learned this week? And just share that. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Right.
That is the biggest message about Facebook Live, is just being present in the moment and just go and listen for that guidance, and you'll know what to say. I think if you try to write it all out, I have seen Facebook Lives where, and sometimes I do have notes, but if it's like, okay, if it's like this, just talk.
Yeah.
Just talk.
Yeah. Now, I'm assuming you still have this connection with animals, and so you still get animals that show up. What other animal healing stories do you have, or connection stories?
Besides the chipmunk that we saved? I now have stickers on my glass doors, but birds. Have you had birds hit glass? I had one this last winter, and I thought, because it had like feathers all messed up, and it was just lying, and it was snowing, really, like I couldn't even make this up. And I heard boom, and I went, oh no, and it was lying in the snow and it's just, and it took me about 10 minutes though of just holding it. And they're so tiny, and so, I mean, I don't know, it's indescribable, that little life in your hand, and to feel its life energy. You can feel it dimming, and just to like just be a channel for it. And it took me about 10 minutes of holding it, and finally, when I was about frozen, and I went to the glass door to try to slide it with my elbow, and the noise made it, and it flew away. Just, I don't know.
Yeah. So
in plants, I can't seem to go to. One time I went to Lowe's, and they hadn't been watering the plants, and I'm really sensitive to plants. Do you Reiki your plants? Do you have plants, Stephen?
I have a few plants, yeah.
Do you Reiki them?
Yes.
Yeah, they're neat little leafy beings, but they were all the plants were like sort of lying over on their sides. I'm like, water these plants, or give me your hose and I'll water your plants. Yeah, everything. I'm a real nature kind of person, I guess.
So
I'm a happy girl in the woods. I think did you see any of my videos from last year? I had a skunk and possums and I had a 3-legged raccoon.
Tell me about the 3-legged raccoon.
Her name was Nancy, and she would come. There were 3 babies, and one only. I don't know what happened to her other leg, and I haven't seen her this year. But she would come, and I would just video her, and I thought, is she hurting? And so I would send Reiki through the door, but she was fine. But she would. They bathed like cats. They would just come and lounge on my furniture on the deck and take a bath. And she'd like to get up and play the wind chimes, like la 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 la, ting-a-ling, ting-a-ling. Well, actually, hers was more like ting-a-ling, like this. But her sister had Lil and Nancy, which I stole from Rocky Raccoon. I'm a huge Beatles fan.
There you go. There you go. How about people healing stories? Do you have like when you were teaching, you would say that, people would come with questions on their essay or something like that, and inevitably there'd be, something more and deeper, physical or emotional that you end up working through. Are people like, that need help and need healing? Are they still being attracted to you, and who's coming to you?
Since I've moved, I've had a smaller circle of clients. I've had to kind of branch out a little, but one particular client, I don't know, we don't have HIPAA. Well, I'm not using names or anything. That I've had recently really struggles with her weight, and I was able to help. That was more mental, I think, than the physical. I mean, she just obsessed over not weighing enough, and was able to work with her to, where she actually put on weight because she stopped worrying about it. But it took about 3 sessions to kind of release some fears that she had. I've had a couple of interesting distant Reiki sessions. One was actually a former student, and she called me and she said that she was just feeling she said, I don't know what's wrong with me. Anyway, she's a nurse and she works at the Arkansas State Hospital. And so we were doing a distant Reiki session on her. And I said, Abby, I said, I am picking up this, okay, I just said her name. I'm picking up this, like, a black gooey thing that I'm seeing in my mind's eye, like on your back. And anyway, it turned out that afterwards, I think that she had picked something up from one of the patients there, but it was like instant, like once we got it off and released, she said, I know that sounds crazy. She said, but you took something off because I feel so much better. I've had several students that were able to complete their college, and they when they first started, they had no self-esteem, no confidence. They had lots and lots of trauma, past trauma, that was like undermining everything that they were doing, and I could work with them. That's probably the most rewarding part of the teaching, is just to because I can see it. I can see their potential. They can't. And I never can understand why they can't see it, but I can see it. And eventually you can pull off all of that negativity and all that past programming and just channel the Reiki, channel that love, and it falls away, and they start to see. It's almost like watching a plant. You give water, it's all wilted in it. You watch it slowly. And I can see it. I can see it there, and it's just like giving it the love so it can. I had another student, and I didn't know it was cancer, but she had thyroid cancer. But I was doing Reiki on her, and I just kept going like, there's something there. And kept giving Reiki to it, but she went to the doctor and she had thyroid cancer. And of course, so she had that removed, and we Reiki'd it, and she's healed.
So you're able to really kind of pick up. Do you see things, or do you feel them, or I'm not quite there where I can feel stuff.
I don't see auras. And I always try in every class. We do the practice. I'm like, take your eyes out of focus, and sometimes I can see a little bit but I've never been able to. I feel, and sometimes I get like a picture, and sometimes, and this sounds crazy. Hey, I don't know if I'm gonna put this on my Facebook page or not. I have walked past people and hear like a voice like, talk to her, or like a voice in my ear. Audible guidance, yeah. And I'll go, and every time I've followed that voice, it's been for a reason. The person, I'm like, hey, are you looking for such and such, or or just your eyes are really pretty, or you just to make some sort of a connection, and it's always for a reason. And I'm not sure if those are their guides, my guides, but
probably
yeah,
your
but
guides.
mainly just feelings. I pick up, and I've had to learn. Karen Harrison helped me a lot with this. Is I'm like a sponge. I have to be careful and kind of put up a boundary. Especially if I'm around a lot of negative, I'll soak that up. So I have to really shield. But
shield and release that.
But I can beam love. I mean, it just comes right. It's those open pore sponge sort of things. Like if that Reiki, that love energy is coming, it just goes out. It just leaks out, and people feel it. Yeah. I think it's maybe the only gift I have, but it's a gift. Yeah. It's a gift.
Now you recently moved to Bentonville, in conjunction with your son starting college and kind of moving there. So, and you moved from the Little Rock area?
Well, Central. I was about 50 minutes north.
Okay. And
west
so
of.
How was was your practice really starting to develop there, and then you had to move, or?
No. I lived in a town of 6,000, and I don't know how I had a practice. Honestly, people would find me, and I would teach in Little Rock sometimes, and sometimes in Morrilton. But a lot of not many people open to that kind of work. Now, where I took the class in Russellville, and it's only maybe 25,000, like where I live now, but it was there's probably more potential here. But and there are times when I think like I should just go somewhere else, But I wanted to move to Arkansas. I left Texas when I was pregnant. I left my husband, and I was pregnant, and I always wanted to. I think it's the crystals. I think it's the crystals around hot springs. I'm not kidding. I have always been drawn to Arkansas, and it's beautiful here. But there's a lot of pain. There's a lot of pain and generational pain and substance abuse, and there's a lot of positive, but there's a lot of stuff here too.
Of healing. A lot of healing.
And I think that's why I'm supposed to be here.
Yeah. Now, so you've really hit the market pretty aggressively from my point of view. You've got Arkansas Reiki Institute, Arkansas Complementary Healthcare. This is all under the umbrella of Caig Consulting Incorporated.
Yeah, because I do I can teach Spanish, sort of like educational consulting. So that's the umbrella. And then I did Arkansas Complementary Healthcare, so I could incorporate the aromatherapy, and I also do reconnective healing, and that's a whole big long story that we probably don't have time to do either. Nope. Which I took in Norway.
Oh.
Yeah, that was seriously, God, Norway. That was the only place that I could take the class, and for 3 days after feeling this, like you need to take reconnective healing, everywhere I turned was Norway. It's like Norway on television. My son and I were in the car, and Edvard Grieg, the composer, came on. I said, "Aiden, guess where this composer's from?" He said, "Norway." I said, "Yes." And that was insane that it turned out that I was able to gather the funds, and I took reconnective healing in Oslo. Hurdy-durly-dur.
You get some really clear guidance.
I do.
Specific and clear, and I love
and
it.
Sometimes it's so crazy, and it's like, how on earth is that going to happen? Norway? And it ended up being a 3-week. I thought we were going to starve in Paris. A 3-week trip around, the French. My son cursed for the first time ever in front of me in Paris because of the train strike. He said, "I hate this country." I said, "I feel you, son." But I forgot to tell you my favorite animal story. If we just have a second.
Oh yeah, we have plenty of time.
Last year, we try to take a group of students every year. Next year we're going to Iceland. If anybody wants to go, if you want to go, Stephen. But we went to the Galapagos Islands. I let my son choose. He used to want to be a marine biologist, and we have to plan these like 2 years out to be able to make the payments on it. But we went to the Galapagos Islands, and in order to protect the animals and the wildlife, you're not supposed to get closer than 6 feet to any animal because they have no fear of humans at all. The turtles, the iguanas, Nothing, sea lions. So we were snorkeling, and we didn't even take cameras because it was supposed to be a quick jaunt out to see some lava formations in the water. And it turned out that there were a couple of sea lions, and this one particular sea lion, we were swimming, and I made the joke like, oh, she just thinks I'm another sea lion here in this bathing suit, you know. But she kept coming up to me, and I was sending her Reiki, and she was playing with me, Stephen. She would, under the water, you know, I would just keep, you know, swimming like this, and she would come up and she'd go and just blow bubbles in my face. And yeah, and it was amazing. Even the guide said, I've never, ever, ever seen the sea lions do that. You know, wow. I was afraid she might bite my face or something. But yeah, she would just like right here, just and which would make me laugh, of course. And I just kept sending her Reiki, and it was like, why did she do that? I was like, and it was like, well, because I was sending her Reiki. But just that they're really playful, and I think that may be my favorite Reiki animal story.
Oh wow, yeah, that's beautiful. Holy cow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So how do you juggle all these, you know, the Aroma Cats, Arkansas Reiki Institute? How do you manage that, and how effective is that for your overall business?
Well, they all dovetail, you know, as I said, the oils to me enhance the Reiki. The Reiki is great on its own. And I find that the essential oils, they helped me a lot. And, sometimes it looks a little more normal to just diffuse something rather than like, you know, do these symbols and, you know,
right.
So, you know, you can, before we started talking, I had my Valor roll on, you know, you saw me roll this on my wrist. And so that kind of just goes along with the Reiki. Mm-hmm. They're both energy to me, energy work. And I do the teaching in the morning, mainly just to make ends meet until my clientele picks up as I'm doing this. But, and I teach from 5 a.m. to 8. Because China's 13 hours ahead of us. So I do that just to have a little bit of steady income coming in. And then as I build my clientele, and then it goes together. But as I mentioned to you earlier, sometimes it feels like I'm like, get this plate spinning over here. And then you run over here and do this plate. And then, yeah. And that is helped through the Reiki as well. You know, I give myself Reiki every day, twice a day. And listen for that guidance, and like, what's the next right thing? You know, what's the next right thing? What's the next right move?
Yeah. And
I'm so grateful to this Reiki community. I have met so many people that I can reach out to, like, can you send me some Reiki for this? You know, and it's a spiritual community. For me, Reiki is my spiritual path.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Now, did you go to the recent international Reiki retreat in New York?
I didn't.
Oh.
I'm signed up to go to the one in Sedona,
okay.
But I'd like to go to the one in New York. But I'm going to the one in Sedona, so I'm looking. I went to that one last year,
okay.
And that was wonderful to be around like-minded people, especially living, you know, in an area that may not be abundant with Reiki practitioners. Lots of wonderful people here, don't get me wrong, but just some people think it's satanic, like, that's the devil right there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, you have to be kind of careful.
Yeah. Well, you know, one thing I was thinking about, because didn't we talk about doing volunteer work at the Veterans Hospital as well? And,
yes.
You know, the VA, you know, this something I really play heavily on is the VA actually has been publishing articles about complementary therapies, you know, Reiki and yoga and, you know, a variety of other things. Yeah, Tai Chi, you know, things like this. And this is the federal government talking about it. You know, and I feel like those published articles that they've put out are, you know, they can really help people think differently about, you know, what this could be.
You know, I didn't get to tell you. I asked you because of your recent success with the VA. where you are, and in Fayetteville, Arkansas. It's really it's one of the larger VA hospitals. So I went there to talk with them, and I'm actually going to end up doing volunteer training. He was like, well, you do what? And I said, well, yeah, I said, it's been approved, as a complimentary therapy. And he said, by whom? I said, by the Veterans Administration. He said, it has, but he was new in the job. But speaking of that voice, he said, well, what we really need, he said, you understand, he said, people say we need volunteers for this or that, and I find people. And I said, I have used Reiki in hospice. I forgot to mention that. I was a hospice volunteer, and that was so helpful. And it doesn't bother me at all to be with people at the end of their lives. Like, it's one of the things I like. I said, I could do palliative care, and he said, well, but he said, what we really need are some drivers. He said, we need some people to drive people from their homes to their appointments. And, I'm there with my Reiki brochures, and I'm ready to do like a volunteer Reiki program. I want to set this up, and I take some of my students and have them, volunteer and coordinate this, and have like at least, maybe twice a month Reiki share at the VA. And he's like, we need drivers. And I heard just clear as a bell, like, do it. And I was like, I could do that. So I'm gonna volunteer my time. And I thought, well, maybe that'll show him that I do. I care about the veterans, and I care about serving. And so maybe that's what I need to do.
Yeah.
I'll be driving them to their appointments, giving them some Reiki in the back seat, maybe. But I hear my grandfather a lot. He's retired from the Air Force. He was retired from the Air Force, and he used to say, Karen Renee, you just say, yes, sir, can do. They say jump, you say how high.
Right.
So I thought, okay, I'll drive them.
Well, I found the process that the VA has. It's world-class volunteer organization. Over 100,000 people volunteering through the VA system, so they really have it down. So their process in bringing somebody through with the security and TB test,
And I understand that.
It's all pretty standard. It doesn't matter what you do. Well, it does a little bit if you're in the computer system. That's a whole nother level of security. But I'm sure there's probably more to it if you're driving, because you're
well, I'll drive them if they need me to drive. I can.
Once you're in, and you can change up what you do. They just.
And who knows? Who knows what kind of healing I might bring while I'm driving them? Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I have learned to just follow that guidance, and who knows?
Yeah. So, do you have some classes coming up? What do you got going on?
I do. I have a class next weekend, the first weekend in August. I have Usui Holy Fire Reiki 1 and 2, and I'm trying to do a class every month, Reiki 1 and 2, just to get the licensed teacher stuff done. So, the first weekend in August, because I have the Reiki retreat at the end of August, and then probably end of September, end of October. So I'm just going to keep going with it.
Keep plugging away. Yeah, absolutely.
And, I love it. And I have small classes, but I enjoy those small classes. And they really bond.
Yes. Yeah. That's my favorite thing to do, is to do the classes. Coming out of the classes is amazing. Absolutely.
And every class is different. I send Reiki to it beforehand, and like let me be a channel. Let me provide what they need, and every class is different, and then the bond is strong.
The bond is strong with these.
Yeah.
All right. Very nice. Very nice. That's beautiful. Well, I appreciate you being with us this evening, being on the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You're a bright, shiny light, and we want to hear back from you. And also, too, we've got this other show called Reiki Topics. So think about Reiki topics and a topic. And one that comes to mind is maybe some of this theatrical training that could help people get through their fear or work through their fear. And doing Facebook Lives. I think that'd be a beautiful offering, and hopefully people won't be afraid of hopping on to check out that class.
Yeah, there's some tricks. There's some tips and tricks that I could share to help people. Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll look forward to that. Thank you so much, Karen. Bless you.
Thank you.
All right, and thanks everybody for watching this evening. We had a lot of live viewers. You're still with us. Thank you. I appreciate that. We'll be back next Thursday, 6 p.m. Pacific time, with episode 27 of Reiki Currents, a Reiki News Live talk show. Blessings and namaste.
Bye.